Everything is falling apart for Jax Stewart. The walls she built to protect herself are starting to crack, and the people she trusted most might be the ones pulling them down. As Reasonable Doubt's Season 3 heads into Episode 5, the tension is at its highest. Every choice Jax makes now could cost her everything: her career, her family, even her freedom. But the real question is, when the truth finally comes out, whose side will she really be on? Season 3 of Reasonable Doubt has been a storm of secrets, ambition, and consequences. From the very first episode, we've watched Jax Stewart fight harder than ever, not just inside the courtroom, but inside her own life. This season opened with her trying to rebuild after the chaos of last season's betrayals. But peace never stays long in Jax's world. A new case landed on her desk that looked simple at first: a high-profile client, a clear defense, and a chance to remind everyone why she's the best in the game. But as the episodes went on, it became obvious that this case wasn't just another win for her career. It was a mirror, one that showed how fragile her control really is. Each episode so far has chipped away at Jax's confidence. Episode 1 reintroduced her as the unstoppable attorney, the woman who knows how to turn pressure into power. But by Episode 2, cracks started to show. Her relationships with those closest to her, her team, her family, even her own moral compass began to twist under the weight of secrets. There's this unspoken tension that follows her everywhere she goes, like the truth is always just one step behind, waiting to catch up. By Episode 3, we saw Jax face a moral test she couldn't escape. The courtroom battles turned personal. Every question she asked, every witness she challenged, somehow echoed her own guilt. She's no longer just defending her clients, she's defending her own sense of justice. But how long can she keep the line between right and wrong from blurring? The writers have made it clear. This season isn't about law. It's about loyalty, and Jax is running out of people she can trust. Episode 4 took everything up another level. We saw her confidence start to break. Someone close to her, someone she never expected, started to play their own game, and Jax didn't see it coming. The deals she made in the shadows are now coming back to haunt her, and the courtroom victories no longer feel like wins. Every argument, every verdict, feels heavier now, like she's fighting ghosts only she can see. And while she tries to hold her life together, the people around her are quietly watching, waiting for her next mistake. Season 3 has built its tension slowly, one revelation at a time. Every scene feels like a clue, every silence like a warning. The show's brilliance lies in how it forces us to question Jax's choices. Is she the hero of her story, or just the smartest villain in disguise? Fans have been debating this since the first episode dropped, and with Episode 5 around the corner, the line between justice and betrayal has never been thinner. At this point in the season, nothing is certain. The law feels like a game, and Jax is the only player who understands the rules, but even she's starting to lose control. The question isn't whether she'll win the case. It's whether she survived the truth when it finally hits her. Because in Reasonable Doubt, every victory hides a price, and every truth comes with a consequence. Episode 4 ended like a slow-burning fire, quiet but dangerous. It didn't explode with chaos, it simmered with tension, leaving us questioning everything we thought we knew. The last few minutes weren't loud or dramatic, but they carried the kind of silence that makes your heart race. Jax stood there, caught between truth and survival. And in that single moment, we realized something. She's no longer fighting for justice, she's fighting for herself. Throughout the episode, we watched her try to hold on to control, pretending that every move was part of her plan. But underneath that calm surface, you could feel her fear building. The case she thought she understood suddenly turned into something darker, something personal. It's not just about her client anymore, it's about the choices she's made, the lines she's crossed, and the secrets she's buried deep enough to forget. Every victory she's had this season now feels like a trap slowly closing in. The courtroom scenes in Episode 4 were a masterclass in tension. Jax's voice was sharp, confident, unshakable, but her eyes told a different story. You could see the weight behind every word she spoke, like she was arguing not just with the judge, but with her own guilt. Her questions cut deep, but the answers cut deeper. There was one particular moment, a witness's slip, a single name mentioned, that changed everything. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but Jax caught it, and from that point on, her entire focus shifted. The calm, strategic lawyer turned into someone desperate to keep the truth from surfacing. Outside the courtroom, things were even more intense. The cracks in her personal life became impossible to hide. The tension between Jax and her closest ally, the one person who has always stood by her, finally reached a breaking point. What started as a disagreement turned into a confession, and that confession left her shaken. It wasn't just betrayal she felt. It was realization. Realization that she's been fighting the wrong battle all along. The people she thought were helping her are playing their own game. And she's right in the middle of it, unaware of how deep it goes. The final act of episode 4 was the perfect setup for chaos. Late at night, Jax returns to her office, the city lights reflecting off the glass walls. There's no dialogue, just silence and the low hum of a storm building outside. She opens a file, one she's avoided all season, and as she flips through the pages, her face changes. There's something there, something that connects her current case to her past. It's not just professional anymore, it's personal, emotional, and dangerous. Her entire expression tells us everything we need to know. She's been played, and now she knows it. That final shot stays in your mind long after the credits roll. Jax, sitting alone, surrounded by evidence, her confidence replaced by something new, fear, real fear. Because for the first time, she doesn't have control. The woman who always found a way out might finally be trapped, not by the law, but by her own decisions. It's a moment that strips her down completely, reminding us that beneath the power suits and courtroom victories, Jax is still human, flawed, vulnerable, and painfully aware that her empire is cracking. What's genius about this episode is that it doesn't hand us answers. It leaves us with questions, hundreds of them. Who leaked the evidence? Why does her client's story feel too clean? Who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? Every silence in that last scene feels like a clue, every look like a warning. The writers aren't just telling a story, they're setting a trap, one we'll all walk into in episode 5. Episode 4 didn't end with action. It ended with suspense. The kind of suspense that grows louder the longer you think about it. Jax's world is now surrounded by uncertainty. The law is no longer her shield. It's her prison. The people around her are no longer allies. They're suspects. And as the storm builds for episode 5, one thing is clear. The truth is coming for her. And when it does, there will be no reasonable doubt left, only consequences. Episode 5 is shaping up to be the turning point of Reasonable Doubt Season 3. The moment where every secret begins to unravel and every lie demands to be paid for. The tension built over the first 4 episodes has reached its peak. And now, all the choices Jax Stewart has made are coming back like ghosts she can no longer ignore. This episode won't just test her as a lawyer, it will test her as a woman standing on the edge of losing everything she built with her own hands. If episode 4 was about realization, episode 5 will be about confrontation. The silence is over. The truth that has been quietly lurking in the background is ready to make its entrance. Jax knows that she's being watched, manipulated, and outplayed. But this time, she's not running, she's ready to strike back. Expect a colder, sharper version of her. Someone who's done pretending that everything is under control. This is where the real battle begins, not in the courtroom, but in the spaces between truth and survival. The courtroom scenes in episode 5 are expected to hit harder than ever. The writers have been slowly tightening the grip, and now it's time for the explosion. Rumors suggest we'll see Jax face off against someone who knows her too well, someone who understands how she thinks, how she wins, and how to make her fall. It's not just a legal fight, it's a psychological one. Every objection, every pause, every look exchanged across the room will carry more meaning than any verdict could. This episode won't rely on drama, it will rely on mind games. The kind that make you question who's lying and who's just better at hiding the truth. But outside the courtroom is where things might truly fall apart. Jax's personal life, already hanging by a thread, is expected to break open completely. The fallout from episode 4's secret will spread like wildfire, touching every corner of her life. People she thought were loyal may turn their backs, and those she dismissed might come back with power. There's a heavy sense of betrayal in the air, the kind that cuts deeper because it comes from people she trusted. Episode 5 will likely force her to make a choice between saving her career or saving her soul. And knowing Jax, neither option will come without damage. This episode might also bring long-awaited answers. There's still so much mystery around the case that's been running through the season. Who's really behind it? Why does it seem to connect so deeply to Jax's past? The clues have been there all along. Small, hidden moments that felt random before but are now ready to snap together like puzzle pieces. Episode 5 feels like the point where the picture finally becomes clear. Even if what we see isn't what we were hoping for, expect tension-filled conversations, shocking revelations, and quiet scenes that speak louder than arguments. Emotionally, episode 5 will likely hit harder than anything before. Jax's strength has always come from her ability to stay composed, to outthink her enemies and outtalk her doubts. But this time, it's personal. We might see her stripped down to her most vulnerable form, no confidence, no control, just raw honesty. There's something powerful about watching a character who's always been in charge finally lose that control. And episode 5 might give us exactly that moment. The walls she's built around herself, her pride, her distance, her fear are about to come crashing down. And yet, there's another side to Jax that fans know too well. She may stumble, but she never stays down. Episode 5 could be her breaking point, or it could be her rebirth. It all depends on which version of her decides to show up. Will it be the lawyer who bends the truth to survive, or the woman who finally decides to face it? The promos tease that someone from her past might return, someone who knows her too well. Someone who could either destroy her completely or help her find her way back. Either way, it's going to change everything. The beauty of reasonable doubt lies in its unpredictability. Just when you think you know what's coming, it turns everything upside down. Episode 5 promises to be the calm before the storm and the beginning of the end. Every scene will matter. Every decision will echo into the rest of the season. This isn't just another episode. It's the moment where the show redefines itself. One thing's for sure. Nothing will be the same after episode 5. Jax's world is collapsing from every direction. And the only way out might be through the very truth she's been avoiding. Expect tears, shocks, and moments that make you question everything you thought you understood about her. Because in reasonable doubt, there's never just one side to the story. And this time, both sides are about to collide in a way no one is ready for. Every great story reaches a point where the characters stop acting and start revealing who they truly are. Reasonable Doubt Season 3 has been slowly peeling away those layers. And episode 5 is where the masks finally come off. This is the moment where we stop guessing what the characters will do and start understanding why they're doing it. Every decision now comes from a place of pain, fear, or guilt. And every connection is hanging by a single thread. Let's start with Jax Stewart, the heart, mind, and storm of this show. From the beginning, she's been a master of control, a woman who fights chaos by staying one step ahead of it. But in episode 5, that control starts to slip, and what's left behind isn't weakness, it's truth. We've seen her fierce in the courtroom, confident and relentless, but this time the fight is turning inward. She's beginning to realize that the enemy isn't always the person across the table. Sometimes it's the voice in your own head. The weight of her choices, the lines she's crossed, and the lives she's affected are catching up to her. Her confidence isn't armor anymore, it's a cage, and as cracks form in her professional life, so do the ones in her personal world. This episode could finally show us Jax not as the perfect lawyer, but as the imperfect woman behind the reputation, scared, cornered, but still unwilling to bow down. Then there's the antagonist, whose presence has been like a shadow creeping closer each episode. We still don't fully know their plan. But one thing is clear, they're not after Jax's downfall just for revenge or power. There's something deeper, more emotional driving them. The hints have been subtle. A shared history, a familiar pain, or maybe a secret Jax has buried for years. Episode 5 might give us our first real look at their motivation, and if the writers stay true to form. It won't be black and white. The best villains aren't monsters, they're reflections. And this one feels like a reflection of everything Jax has been running from: ambition, ego, guilt, and that quiet desperation to be seen as right, even when you're wrong. Expect a confrontation that doesn't rely on shouting or violence, but on words, sharp, quiet, and painfully honest. One character who has been on the sidelines but might finally step into the spotlight is Lewis, Jax's ex. Their relationship has been a constant push and pull, love, resentment, and unfinished business all tangled together. In the last few episodes, we've seen Lewis trying to rebuild trust. But episode 5 could put him in a position where he must choose between protecting Jax or protecting himself. The chemistry between them is always charged, not with romance, but with history. Every glance carries years of unsaid things. If episode 5 decides to explore that emotional tension, we might see a side of Lewis we haven't before. One that's tired of waiting for Jax to open up. One that's ready to move on even if it means letting her fall. And then there's Damon, the wild. His relationship with Jax has always lived in the gray, somewhere between ally and temptation, between trust and manipulation. He knows too much about her, maybe more than he should. The look he gave her in episode 4 wasn't just concern, it was warning. In episode 5, he could become the mirror that forces Jax to face her own hypocrisy. He's flawed, yes, but his flaws make him honest. He doesn't hide behind professionalism or power. He wears his mistakes openly. That's what makes him dangerous, not what he can do to Jax. but what he makes her see about herself. The supporting cast, too, will likely step into their own moments. Characters who seemed secondary might suddenly hold key information. The assistant who overheard too much. The friend who's been too quiet. The client who knows more than they've admitted. Reasonable doubt thrives on these slow reveals. Every side character is a potential spark waiting to ignite the next explosion. In episode 5, don't be surprised if one of them flips the entire story upside down with a single action or line of dialogue. What makes this episode so promising isn't just what the characters do, but how they feel while doing it. There's a shared tension among them now, like everyone is carrying their own version of guilt. Every smile feels forced, every conversation feels heavy, and every alliance feels temporary. The writers have turned this season into a psychological maze where trust is the most dangerous thing you can offer. Episode 5 will likely expose that at its core. This section of the story isn't about crime or law. It's about people pretending they're fine when they're falling apart inside. Jax is fighting to prove she's right, Lewis is fighting to stay stable, Damon is fighting not to care too much, and the antagonist is fighting to be understood. Everyone is clinging to their version of truth, and in episode 5, those truths are going to collide. By the end of the episode, we might not get all the answers, but we'll understand the characters better than ever before. We'll see who's willing to sacrifice their morality for power, and who's willing to sacrifice everything for redemption. The stage is set, the emotions are boiling, and no one is safe. Not from betrayal, not from heartbreak, and definitely not from themselves.